Hello, binnies and non-binnies, to another episode of Having to Deny the Allegations. What allegations, you may ask? Well, there has been some allegations that I'm a car seat headrest fan. You know what I mean? Like a pyrocynical fan. Do you get what I mean by that? Look, it's well documented that I'm trans. God damn it, I have a whole educational series coming out about it soon, which I am loving creating the videos for, by the way, and I hope some of you will find helpful. But this does not mean that I am a furry. We aren't all furries. I just reposted this because I thought it was cool. This is not a thing. Stop. Now that I've successfully beat the case, I mean, hopefully. Look at my lawyer, dog. I'm going to jail. We'll get into what I actually want to talk about today, which is, I've spoken a lot about the process of being trans from acceptance to euphoria, but one part I have neglected is the phase that I personally refer to as, other people call being an egg. Me and my friend were discussing this recently. It sort of reminded me how mentally tough it was to navigate through that time, which is why I want to talk about it. Now, if I'm honest, I hate egg culture. It does a lot to reinforce gender roles in a way that I think is ultimately damaging to us as a community, because not every guy that likes makeup is trans femme. Some men just like makeup. And by pushing that, you're reinforcing the same toxic ideas of masculinity, which are the patterns that helped reinforce your so-called egg. So it's ultimately quite self-destructive. You're just repeating the cycle. I know that was a little bit of a tangent. Being an egg is a fun thing to joke about. I'm not saying I didn't make those jokes, because I definitely did. But it's a very hellish experience that is defined by knowing but being too scared to be yourself. Which, with what's going on, I don't know if I blame anyone.
I want to make this a really good signature, because this is a big one, right?
Does the Prime Minister now accept that when he said that it was the law that trans women were women, he was wrong?
To continue to protect single-sex spaces based on biological sex, and we will, but also to ensure
This is
that
a choice between a Conservative Party that stood up for common sense and a Labour Party that bent the knee to every passing fad.
What they're doing, these executive orders, they are going to kill children. Children are going to die.
I don't really care. You want in women's bathrooms, and I'm not going to have it. Okay. No, thank you.
This is a question about moral courage, Mr. Speaker, about doing the right thing.
Trans people are exhausted that would ban gender-affirming care up until the age of 26. So this is about children. This is about protecting the children. It's never been about the children. It's always been about scapegoating trans people, stigmatizing us, and criminalizing our existence.
My journey with gender identity and gender identity labels started at 15/16 when I came out to a few friends as non-binny, non-binary.
This lightens consequences.
Are you Catholic?
No, I'm non-binary.
NB. I then swiftly went on a right-wing arc and suppressed it for 5 years. But anyway, we don't talk about that. We don't need to talk about that. But obviously, it came back because you cannot push who you are down forever. And when it came back, it was immediately clear that something quote-unquote gendery was weird. But what that actually was and what that meant was kind of unknown to me. Talking to trans people and listening to queer voices.
You do know, because Finn is my #1 biggest fan and watches all my videos.
Wait a second. I can finally do this now. So if you're trans, then
help me find a base and contextualize more of what I was feeling. But due to brainwashing political takes that queer people are forced up against during the journey very quickly turned into picking apart every little part about myself, my past and my interpretations of events, because one of the hardest parts that realizing you're trans is justifying it to yourself. Or more importantly, the feeling that you have to justify it in the first place. This is where the label gender fluid came in. Which those of you who are long-time supporters will remember from earlier videos. Which, on that same subject, I was speaking to a friend about this earlier, and I realised I literally did the fucking meme. You know this one? I started as he, they, and then they, them, and then went to she, they for a really long time. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a pipeline. It means that when you're being told something is disgusting and makes you a horrible person, you usually have to accept it in stages, because it's not great to realise that you are the thing people hate. That's not something you can just immediately accept, and that's just dealing with the opinions of people not even around you. There are much more serious implications on things like partners, family and friends, the people who are actually in your life. While some of us may not be in relationships, some are, like me. Sorry. But if you're a good partner, you are probably aware that your actions are bigger than you and affect the other person within that dynamic, and that's a scary thing to handle. Being trans even before HRT is a huge change that will shift a relationship's dynamic, and it's things like this that you will naturally consider, especially if you love your partner, which I hope you do. But being trans is ultimately a very individual thing. You can swear blind that you enjoy being a guy, but you know what you think every single time that you say that, and eventually you can't keep lying to people. This time seems to be defined by these sort of arguments that we put in front of ourselves as we come to terms and start unpacking our trans identity. So, unpacking the common arguments, the most common one I see is, quote unquote, I don't get dysphoria, or I don't have enough dysphoria. I mean, firstly, dysphoria isn't always present in trans people. Most, yes, but not all. Secondly, do you really not have that much dysphoria? I've spoke to other trans people and they've been like, yeah, I don't get dysphoria very much, but like unless I'm being actively, somewhat feminine, I feel a deep, uncomfortable pit in my stomach as if my existence isn't aligning correctly. But if people call me he, I don't mind. Which is like, yeah, that's dysphoria. I spoke about this in the Realizing I Was Trans video, but it's very possible to have dysphoria that is there that you don't recognize as dysphoria because you've lived with it for so long. Very much a, light in the darkness situation. You don't realize the darkness you're surrounded by until you see a break from it. This was very much the case for me. I was obsessed with femininity as a teenager, and I have so many stories from my mother that looking back was clearly dysphoria. The funniest one being me absolutely soul destroyed when I started growing body hair, which is like a very cis and normal thing for a teenage boy to do, which I didn't even personally remember. My mum reminded me about it, and then I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. Also, quickly, regarding the amount of dysphoria you have, suffering isn't a competition. Any dysphoria is dysphoria. You don't have to be tweezing hairs out of your legs obsessively to be valid in your suffering. And the final nail in the coffin for the I don't get dysphoria argument, or I don't have enough dysphoria. Cis people don't worry about being trans. Like, they just don't. If you were cis, you wouldn't think about it. You'd be like, oh no, I'm a dude. Like, I'm a girl. Yeah, it's that simple. But continuing along the lines of dysphoria, how long you have it, I think, is also another one. In the UK, and I think generally in the Western world, there is an expected story regarding transness, and are also promoted to have by certain medical professionals as they don't believe us otherwise. I'm sure you're aware of what I'm referring to. They're like, oh, ever since I was a young boy, I would steal my sister's dresses and my mother's makeup and ask to be called Suzanne. Which, yes, okay, some of us have stories like that, but that is a story that can only exist in a certain context, which is a context of a open family and a safe home, which sadly not many people have the privilege of. A lot of us, me included, had a storied life by the age of 10, and within that there was no space to be like, oh, why do I hate when my mum cuts my hair? Because you're too busy, I don't know, like in the middle of a divorce or something. I see a lot of trans women who have internalized this story and believe they aren't valid if they don't have it, which isn't remotely fair at all, because life is much more nuanced than that. This story is pushed for a reason, right? I mean, queerness historically has always been attempted to be put in a box for very many reasons, but that's a whole other conversation. Finally, adult conversation coming up, so leave if you're not an adult. Why are you here? Anyway, the final frontier of the egg. Is it just a fetish? Obviously, viewer discretion. Now, if I'm honest, I never really understood this one, because it's like, if you're a trans woman, of course, you find situations in which you are yourself exciting. Like, that's kind of obvious. What? To the point where it's almost redundant. Like, you realize cis women imagine themselves as women in those situations too.
So?
No, I'm saying
what now?
Obviously, there are such things as cross-dressers, but that's something so different from transness. If you view yourself as a woman in those situations, do you still view yourself that way when you're, like, running errands, or getting groceries, or, like, on the phone with your gender clinic, which is just a hassle? If so, then there you go. That's a sign that you genuinely imagine yourself this way. I think this is just the last road of brain rot that a lot of us go down to try and dismiss ourselves. Whew. Okay, I'ma fight these gender norms. Damn. Gender norms got hands. As I've said, because of how we are socially viewed, it's hard for a trans person to accept themselves immediately. But that transness just isn't not there because they don't accept it. It has always been there, and maybe, just maybe, that person experimented as the repressed part of themselves seeked a way out to face the inner rejection. If you know basic psychology, this makes much more sense and has much more grounding in the real-life knowledge of the subconscious that we have than the conspiracy of someone, that someone maybe even being you, just sexualizing themselves into another identity. I mean, you already know that you're trans.
Did I lie?
There's a reason that you're here.
Did I lie?
There's a reason that you listened to this video.
Did I fucking lie?
But it's okay, you can accept it in your own time. No one's rushing you. Take time and take care of yourself. Labels aren't something that exist forever. You can spend time finding what's right for you. For me, it started as non-binary when I was a teenager. It doesn't have to be an overnight thing, and you're not being pressured to make a decision despite what the media will tell you. Look, my name has been Penny. Shout out Carl Jung. Pull over if you get tired. Call me back. And bye.
Where's the cheese?
It's under the sauce.
There's no cheese on it.
It's under the sauce.
Like, I'm Italian and this is hurting me.
It's from Chicago.
But it's just sauce.
The cheese is under the sauce.